Scale is often treated like a reward, as if growth is something you earn after enough effort. But in real systems, scale is not a reward. It is a test. It doesn't improve what you built. It exposes it. Whatever structure exists beneath your income becomes more visible, more amplified, and more unforgiving the moment you try to grow. Small systems can survive being inefficient. Large systems cannot. Small systems can hide weaknesses. Large systems turn them into failures. This is why so many income streams feel fine at first, then suddenly collapse when they start working. What broke was not motivation. What broke was architecture. When volume is low, almost anything can be carried. You can manually fix errors. You can personally handle customers. You can brute force delivery. You can compensate for design with attention. But when volume increases, attention no longer stretches. The system has to hold the load. And if the system was never designed to carry weight, scale doesn't strengthen it. Scale crushes it. Think of scale as pressure. Pressure reveals where the structure is weak. It shows you what is load-bearing and what is decorative. It shows you where flow is blocked, where effort is leaking, and where outcomes depend entirely on human strain. Growth does not create these problems. It reveals them. This is why people are often confused by success. They expect growth to make things easier. Instead, it often makes everything harder. More customers, more messages, more moving parts, more stress, more volatility. So they assume they are doing something wrong. What they are actually seeing is the truth of their system for the first time. At low volume, effort can mask poor design. At higher volume, effort becomes irrelevant. Architecture takes over. And architecture is not what you do. It is what happens without you. Here is the critical distinction most people miss. Scaling is not about adding more activity. It is about transferring load from people to structure. If load stays on people, scale converts growth into exhaustion. If load moves into structure, scale converts growth into stability. Poor income architecture keeps humans in the critical path. Every outcome depends on presence. Every dollar depends on action. Every problem roots back to the same limited source: time, attention, energy. That system can function, but it cannot expand. Because when you increase demand, you don't increase capacity. You increase strain, and strain is not scalable. Good income architecture removes humans from the points of pressure. It allows demand to increase without multiplying labor. It allows volume to rise without chaos. It allows outcomes to repeat without supervision. Not because the people are better, because the structure is doing more of the work. This is where many systems quietly fail. They look like businesses. They sound like leverage. They even generate income. But underneath, they are still manual machines. Manual fulfillment, manual acquisition, manual quality control, manual problem solving. Scale doesn't turn these into systems. It turns them into bottlenecks. A bottleneck is any point where flow depends on something that cannot multiply. A person, a decision, a custom action, a fragile process. At low volume, bottlenecks don't feel like bottlenecks. They feel like responsibility. At higher volume, they become constraints. And constraints are what decide whether growth becomes momentum or collapse. This is why scale breaks poor income architecture. Not because growth is dangerous, but because growth is honest. It removes the illusions that smallness allows. It shows you whether your system is a container or a funnel that can only pass as much as one person can carry. This is also why copying tactics fails. Two people can run the same strategy and experience opposite outcomes. One scales smoothly, the other implodes. The difference is not the tactic. The difference is what the tactic sits on. The same growth engine plugged into different architectures produces entirely different realities. In one system, traffic increases revenue. In another, it increases complaints. In one system, sales increase stability. In another, they increase chaos. In one system, hiring multiplies output. In another, it multiplies confusion. Scale doesn't care what you call your work. It only responds to how it is built. This is the shift most builders must make. Stop asking, "How do I grow this?" Start asking, "What would happen if this were 10 times larger?" Not hypothetically. Structurally, where would pressure accumulate? Where would decisions bottleneck? Where would quality degrade? Where would energy drain? Those answers are your architecture. And architecture is always present, whether designed or accidental. Poor architecture doesn't announce itself. It works just well enough to survive. It generates just enough reward to encourage continuation. It stays invisible until demand arrives. Then it reveals itself through burnout, volatility, and complexity. Good architecture behaves differently. It simplifies as it grows. It clarifies as it expands. It becomes more stable under pressure, not less. Not because it avoids stress, because it distributes it. This is the deeper meaning of scalability. Not more money, but more load without more fragility. A scalable income system is one where volume strengthens structure instead of stressing it, where repetition reduces effort instead of increasing it, where outcomes depend more on design than on exertion. So if growth has ever made your work heavier instead of lighter, that was not failure. That was feedback. Your system was showing you its true shape. And the moment you stop trying to overpower that shape is the moment you become capable of redesigning it. Because scale does not destroy good systems. It reveals them. And it is only once structure is visible that it can be changed.